The Baltimore Ravens walked away from their latest win with more than just another mark in the victory column, because this game once again brought the spotlight back to a storyline that has quietly followed the team all season. DeAndre Hopkins has been a constant topic of conversation, not because he has struggled, but because his role looks very different from what many imagined when he arrived. There was a belief that his presence would immediately reshape the passing attack. Yet week after week, his contributions have come in measured moments rather than overwhelming volume. Against Cincinnati, it was another example of that reality. A single catch that still carried weight and changed momentum, reminding everyone that impact is not always defined by how often the ball comes your way. What made this week stand out was how open Hopkins decided to be afterward. There was no frustration in his tone, no deflection. Just honesty about why he chose Baltimore and how he views his place within this offense. He spoke about Lamar Jackson not only as his quarterback, but as someone he has wanted to share the field with 4 years. That context matters because it reframes the entire conversation. Hopkins did not arrive chasing numbers or trying to reclaim an old version of himself. He came to play meaningful football with a player he respects and a team he believed was close to something special. That admission pulled back the curtain on past moments when a partnership between Hopkins and Jackson almost became reality earlier in their careers. There were windows where it felt like it could happen, moments when conversations were happening behind the scenes, and then circumstances shifted. Baltimore made other moves, drafted young talent, and leaned into a different plan. Now, years later, the timing finally aligned, even if the role itself looks different than what fans may have expected. Hopkins made it clear that he understood what he was walking into. This offense spreads the ball. There are multiple players who deserve opportunities, and the Ravens are not built around forcing targets to one name. For a player with his resume, that kind of environment requires a mindset adjustment, but it is one Hopkins appears to have embraced. He still believes he is one of the best players on the field every time he lines up. Yet he also understands that winning games in December matters more than personal stat lines. That perspective becomes even more important when you look at how Baltimore has managed veteran receivers in recent seasons. The blueprint feels familiar. A proven player arrives, brings leadership and professionalism, mentors younger teammates, and delivers timely plays rather than overwhelming production. It happened before, and now it is happening again. Hopkins has become a steady presence for players like Zay Flowers, someone who can offer guidance in practice, share insights during games, and reinforce what it means to prepare like a professional at the highest level. Statistically, the numbers may surprise some people. Through 15 weeks, Hopkins has fewer than 20 receptions, just under 300 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. On paper, it looks modest. On film, it feels different. His catches tend to arrive in moments when defenses tighten, when spacing disappears, and when a quarterback needs someone he trusts to be exactly where he is supposed to be. Those plays do not always show up loudly in box scores, but they echo through games. Hopkins also acknowledged that this season has not unfolded exactly how he imagined in terms of team success. The Ravens expected to be among the conference's elite, and while they remain in the hunt, every week has required urgency. Still, being alive in the divisional race, playing games that matter late in the year, and doing so alongside Lamar Jackson gives meaning to his decision. There is a sense that this chapter of his career is less about proving something to the league and more about contributing to something larger. That mentality carries value beyond the field. A locker room feels different when veterans accept their roles without resentment. It allows younger players to grow without pressure. It stabilizes moments of adversity, and it reinforces a standard of accountability. Hopkins has brought that quietly, without demanding attention, and that presence becomes especially important as the season grinds forward. As Baltimore pushes deeper into December, the balance between health, execution, and opportunity becomes fragile. Every snap matters more. Every injury shifts the equation. The Ravens know that their margin for error is thin, and they need contributions from every corner of the roster. Hopkins does not need to dominate targets to be part of that equation. He just needs to continue being available when the moment calls for experience and calm. The next few weeks will test that balance. If opportunities expand because of injuries or matchups, Hopkins is ready. If they do not, he seems comfortable waiting for his moments. That patience, combined with confidence, defines where he is at this stage of his career. He remains competitive, driven, and certain of his ability, but grounded in the reality that meaningful football in December and January is earned collectively, not individually. As the Ravens turned the page from an emotional divisional win, the tone around the team shifted quickly from celebration to reality. Because December football has a way of demanding answers. Immediately, head coach John Harbaugh addressed the media with the kind of update no team wants to hear this late in the season, confirming that Teddy Buchanan suffered a torn anterior cruciate ligament and will miss the remainder of the year. It was a moment that cut through the excitement of the win, reminding everyone how thin the line is between momentum and setback at this point on the calendar. Buchanan's injury stings for more than one reason. Beyond the obvious loss on defense, his growth over the course of the season had become one of the quieter positives for Baltimore. He carved out a meaningful role, especially on special teams, where his energy and effort consistently showed up. Harbaugh made it clear that Buchanan's approach never wavered, praising how invested he was in every rep, every assignment, and every opportunity for a young player still establishing himself. That kind of commitment carries weight inside the building. With Buchanan sidelined, the responsibility shifts, and the Ravens do not have the luxury of easing anyone into expanded roles. Trenton Simpson now becomes central to that conversation. Harbaugh expressed confidence in what Simpson brings, particularly his ability to contribute against both the run and the pass. The coaching staff believes he has already shown that he can handle those moments, and now the expectation is that he turns those flashes into consistency. There is no hiding in December, especially in the middle of the field, where communication and instincts are tested on every snap. The injury discussion did not stop there. Baltimore is navigating the usual late-season uncertainty, where soreness, limited practices, and cautious evaluations become part of the weekly routine. The updates on other defenders were measured, neither alarmist nor dismissive, reflecting the reality that health is something teams manage day by day rather than control outright. Depth becomes more than a talking point, and every roster decision made months earlier suddenly feels magnified. That context matters when you look at how the Ravens approach the final stretch of the season. They are not positioned for the luxury of rest or margin. Every game carries weight, not just for playoff positioning, but for survival. The margin between hosting a postseason game and traveling on the road is slim, and the difference between entering January healthy or depleted can define an entire year. The win over Cincinnati reinforced both sides of that truth. On one hand, it showed resilience, composure, and the ability to execute in critical moments. On the other, it exposed how quickly physical tolls accumulate in divisional battles. These games are not just about schemes or matchups, they are collisions, repeated over for quarters, with consequences that often linger long after the final whistle. Baltimore has lived this reality before. Late-season injuries have altered trajectories, forced adjustments, and changed playoff outlooks in years past. The memory of losing key contributors at the wrong time still sits fresh for many around the team. That experience shapes how they view the coming weeks, emphasizing the importance of getting through games clean while still playing with urgency. This is where leadership becomes essential. Veterans set the tone, not only by how they perform, but by how they respond to adversity. The Ravens will need steady voices in the huddle, on the sideline, and in the locker room. They will need players who understand that perfection is unrealistic, but focus and discipline are non-negotiable. As the schedule tightens, the Ravens also have to manage expectations. They are not chasing style points. They are chasing wins, however they come, whether that means grinding out low-scoring games, leaning on situational defense, or finding offense in small bursts. The identity must remain flexible. December football rarely rewards rigid plans. The path ahead is demanding, but it is also familiar. Baltimore knows what it takes to survive in the AFC North, where every week feels like a test of endurance. Injuries will test depth, close games will test composure, and external pressure will test belief. The teams that last are rarely the healthiest or most talented on paper, but the ones that adapt fastest and stay connected when circumstances shift. For the Ravens, the challenge now is sustaining momentum without ignoring the warning signs that come with it. Each practice, each rep, and each decision carries added significance. There is still opportunity ahead, still football to be played that matters deeply, and still a chance to shape how this season will be remembered, even as the physical and mental demands continue to rise. As the Ravens continue their push through the final stretch of the season, the narrative increasingly centers on how they respond to adversity both on and off the field. With key injuries testing depth across the roster, every practice and game has taken on heightened significance, turning each snap into a moment where preparation and mental toughness can tip the balance. The team's focus has shifted from individual stats or highlight reel plays to the collective goal: winning the games that determine playoff positioning and preserving the possibility of a deep postseason run. Players like Adree Hopkins exemplify this mindset. His willingness to accept a more limited role while still delivering when it matters reinforces a culture that values winning over personal accolades, a mentality that spreads to younger teammates and sets a standard for effort and accountability. Hopkins' presence has also highlighted the subtle ways a veteran can influence a team beyond what appears in the box score, mentoring receivers like Zay Flowers and T.Z. Walker, guiding them through film study, route adjustments, and in-game decision-making, elevates the overall performance of the offense. These contributions are harder to quantify but are equally vital, especially in the crucible of late-season matchups where small details can decide outcomes. It's the kind of leadership that smooths transitions when injuries occur and keeps the team cohesive under pressure. While his catches may be limited in number, each one carries strategic weight, often arriving at pivotal moments that maintain momentum or spark a scoring drive, underscoring the notion that impact is measured not just by volume but by significance. The Ravens' win over Cincinnati illustrated how the combination of strategic adjustments, individual readiness, and collective resilience can create opportunities even in tightly contested games. Offensive schemes adapt in real time, defensive alignments shift to cover for missing personnel, and players are expected to execute flawlessly within those adjustments. The mental aspect is just as crucial as the physical, as every member of the roster must remain sharp, anticipate plays, and communicate seamlessly under pressure. Harbaugh's guidance throughout these moments emphasizes clarity, consistency, and accountability, reinforcing that every decision, from personnel rotations to play calling, contributes to the larger goal of maintaining playoff viability and positioning. December football magnifies these dynamics. The schedule's intensity, combined with mounting physical strain, demands that every unit of defense, and special teams operate at maximum efficiency. The Ravens are navigating that reality, balancing the need to protect injured players while still competing at a level that can keep them in contention. Situational awareness becomes crucial. Understanding matchups, exploiting tendencies, and making adjustments mid-game often dictates success as much as raw talent. This is where experience and leadership shine, particularly from those who have played at the highest levels and understand how to manage both the pressure and the rhythm of the game. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. Rumors are swirling around the Baltimore Ravens as tensions reportedly escalated in the team's locker room. Sources close to the organization suggest that star quarterback Lamar Jackson and promising rookie Rasheen were involved in a heated argument that has sent shockwaves through the franchise. The confrontation, described as intense and highly personal, allegedly took place during a recent practice session and has led the team to make the unprecedented decision to separate both players from the active roster, at least temporarily. Insiders say the dispute between Jackson and Ali was not merely a clash of personalities, but may have stemmed from underlying frustrations within the team's offensive unit, with Jackson being the cornerstone of the Ravens' strategy and Ali emerging as a key weapon in the passing game. Any friction between the two could have serious implications for team chemistry. While neither player has publicly commented, league observers are already speculating on how this internal rift might affect the Ravens' performance in the coming weeks. The move to distance both players from the squad underscores the seriousness with which the Ravens are treating the situation. Sources indicate that team management is seeking to mediate the conflict behind closed doors, emphasizing accountability and professional conduct. Some insiders suggest that this could mark a turning point for the locker room culture, while others warn that prolonged tension could derail the team's momentum, especially given the high expectations placed on both Jackson and Ali this season. Fans have taken to social media to express shock and concern, with many debating whether the feud will lead to longer-term consequences for either player. Analysts are already weighing the potential ripple effects, noting that the Ravens' offensive schemes heavily rely on coordination between the quarterback and his receiving targets. A breakdown in that relationship could force coaching staff to rethink strategies or even explore roster adjustments, while the full story behind the dispute remains unclear. One thing is certain, the Ravens are facing an internal crisis that could have ramifications beyond the locker room, with both players sidelined. Attention now turns to how management will navigate the delicate balance between maintaining team cohesion and handling the fallout from what has quickly become one of the NFL's most talked about locker room controversies. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.